70 years since Newcastle last won a trophy. Feels like 700, to be honest with you. In that length of time, people have been born and died and followed Newcastle their whole life and never seen them lift a trophy. I don't want to go my whole life without seeing Newcastle win a trophy, and I'm beginning to believe, okay? I don't think I ever truly believed when we last went to the cup final, because I'm just like, come on, I've seen this show before. And especially when you get Man United in the final, you're like, oh, even though we beat them constantly, they're going to turn up and we're going to not perform, and that's exactly what happened. But there feels like there might be something different about this season. We're performing so well against bigger sides, and we have this cutthroat energy, and the smaller sides are the problem, but in the big games we're fucking turning up. And as much as Champions League is nice, and I'd like to get top 4, top 5, whatever it is this season, this cup for me is everything. I can't tell you how desperate I am to see Newcastle win a trophy in my lifetime. Just one. I know it's not the biggest trophy in the world. I don't care. I just want to watch Bruno Guimaraes lift that fucking trophy in the air with some black and white ribbons on it and cheer and cry and get so drunk and just celebrate and sing "We Are the Champions" all fucking night and have one of the best days of my life. That is what I want. And I'm begging these Newcastle players, please. I need this. And look, there's bigger Newcastle fans than me who must be feeling even worse, man. Fucking hell. It's going to be emotional if we do pull this off. And the thing about trophies is like, it's like a habit, right? Once you get one, the belief is there and you can get more. But until you climb the mountain, there's a mental block, and there's a 70-year mental block on Newcastle right now. Even though we're playing pretty good, you look at Manchester United. For Manchester United we're talking about here. They've been terrible this last few years, and yet they've still picked up silverware because it's in their DNA. And in order to break this magical spell on this club right now, we need to just fucking win this trophy, and then maybe more will come after that. But I'd be happy with one. In my entire life, I just need one. That's all I'm asking. We can lose games against Sunderland afterwards. We can do whatever has to happen for this to be made good with the Lord. I am willing to pay the price. I'll sell my soul to the devil himself. Just give me that fucking trophy, please. Oh, have I made it clear how bad I want this? I hope so. And what was nice was how many regular football fans who don't have a horse in the race were back in Newcastle who really wanted us to win. I think part of that is because they want to see the Arsenal fans online suffer a bit, which is funny. I don't have anything against Arsenal personally, but it feels like we're becoming a little bit of the people's team again. And one thing I want to give the club credit for was this little moment before the game. They had Cheick Tiote's son, Raphael, as one of the mascots for the game. There's a lot of emotion in that, right? Cheick Tiote was a beast of a player for Newcastle, tragically died so young, and to have his son there representing his family, Tiote Jr., I just loved that touch from the club, so well done to them. And the lad brought us some good luck, because the lads were up for this game, big time, and there was a lot of nerves before the game. Like, I was bricking it, right? I was just sinking Guinness, like, maybe we just got to get through this, you know what I mean? Because if they had scored that first goal, I just feel like the game could have become completely different. We needed to score first, and thank God we did. But really, I probably shouldn't have been as nervous as I was, because Eddie Howe's record against Mikel Arteta is unbelievable. Like, they showed it at one point, only Klopp and Pep Guardiola have a better record, but even still, Eddie has won a lot of games in less games than them. I think it's that good of a record, and I just think he understands exactly how to beat an Arteta team tactically, because, you know, they've spent more money than we have. You know what I mean? It's not like we've just got all these better players. I mean, you could argue some of our players are better than theirs, but as a unit, we just have it. We have their number. Coming into the game, I was worried about the pressure element, because under pressure, like at the start of the season when there's expectation, Newcastle weren't performing, and it was to a point where I was like, this is terrible. This is awful. And then the pressure's off when the season's gone to shit, and we win fucking 10 in a row, and all of a sudden we're back in the top 4 race. And then as soon as the pressure's back on, we lose to fucking Fulham and Bournemouth. Pressure is something that worries me about this Newcastle side. But that kind of is cancelled out by the big game effect that we have at St. James's Park. We've seen it against Paris Saint-Germain. We've seen it against a lot of big sides. And that was such an epic night at St. James's. And we started with a different formation than we usually play. We normally are 4-3-3. We had a 5-4-1 / 5-2-3, depending on with or without the ball. It would be fluid like that, and it worked brilliantly. It's a defensive style that can only really work if your wingers are very good at bombing forward in numbers as soon as you get the ball. Otherwise, you're not going to have enough in attack to really threaten the opposition. And, you know, the running that Anthony Gordon and Jacob Murphy did was phenomenal to help us with that style. Our attackers were really good at pressing the the back line of Arsenal, just staying in their face and making this a fight. And we only had 30% possession, and yet we still got as many shots off as them. So I think that just shows like how effective and potent we were when we did get the ball. You know, we created the better chances. There's just no doubt about that. And even though Arsenal did have one or two good chances, I'm not taking anything away from them, but we were far more threatening. And like, look, it must be quite painful for Arsenal fans, because whenever we play against them, Isak just plays out of his skin, right? He's always good, don't get me wrong, but like he's been unbelievable like in these big games, right? Against top defenders, he rises to the occasion, and they must just be looking thinking what we would give for him. But you're not getting him, right? Can you get that through your head? And Sky Sports and anyone else who needs to know this, we're not letting him go. Got 3 fucking years left on his deal, and people are acting like he's bloody going on a free transfer this summer. But yeah, I really rate Arsenal centre-backs. You know, Saliba and Gabriel are right up there, and yet whenever they play against Isak, they have their worst games, man. It's not a coincidence, right? The same thing happens to Virgil van Dijk, right? He makes great defenders look pretty bang average. Watching him against those two world-class centre-backs, it reminded me of when Rio Ferdinand came up against R9 Ronaldo. Maybe not quite as you know, horrific, but it was up there, right? It was in that ballpark. And especially when you look at the fact that they've just played Erling Haaland, and he's like, you know, compared to Isak. And Haaland did score in that game, to be fair to him, but like Isak just makes their lives hell and creates so much havoc that other people are able to score around him. And the first goal that was ruled offside, I mean, what a finish. The ball goes in from Anthony Gordon. Isak looks like he's held the line. And like, you're thinking to yourself, right, when you threw on goal, you kind of want your striker to sort of place it, because too much power, it can go anywhere. The level of precision and power that he can balance, very few strikers in Premier League history can do that. To hit the ball that hard and that accurately, fuck me, it's unbelievable. And he just broke the net with that thing. And the way he just sort of looked at the crowd afterwards, cool, man, he was cold as fuck. And I was devastated, and I was raging when that was given offside, because when you look on the replay, you couldn't definitively say, and it took them a little too long for my liking to draw the lines. And when you drew the lines, you're like, what, is his hand offside? Like, his feet aren't offside, and what he scores with is his fucking feet. So what difference should it make if a hand is offside? This is ridiculous. And fuck knows what the players were thinking, because I was devastated when that was given off, because you're just thinking, that was it, wasn't it? Yeah, that was my chance. And there it goes. Fuck off. I've got to give credit to one player who really helped the mentality of the lads in that game. Kieran Trippier comes back into the side after having a brief spell on the sidelines through injury, and obviously Livermento's been playing well. I'll be honest, Livermento just isn't on the level of Kieran Trippier currently. Maybe one day he will be, but Trippier, in that kind of form, he's one of the best fullbacks in the world. He had a little rocky patch last season, but he was unbelievable, and he was in the faces of these Arsenal players, and we've seen how up for it they were against Manchester City, and we let them know, oh, you can give it against them lot, can you take it though, and we're going to fucking put it on you. And he set the tone and didn't let the lads' heads go down after that goal had been disallowed, which really, it could have fucked us mentally a bit. And it was scary for a minute there, because Odegaard got a huge chance on the edge of the box. He hits the post. Thank God, because I mean, that goes in. Who knows what that game could have ended up as. Arsenal are a top side, and you give them a sniff, and all of a sudden, you know, you're drowning in quicksand. And without Saka available for this game, Arsenal look to an Odegaard to deliver in those big moments, and he's not that guy, man. He's a very, very good footballer, but I think he's got 2 goals from open play since April. And like, at the level he's supposed to be at, you know, they were talking about him as if he was the next Kevin De Bruyne. He's not. He's not elite. He's a very good player, but he's not at the top of the game. Do you know who is at the top of the game? Alexander Isak. Isak showed he is elite. When that ball comes over, I think it was Gabriel he was fighting with. And to be honest, you back Gabriel. He's a fucking mountain of a man. And Isak just wraps his leg around Gabriel to like back heel flick it towards Anthony Gordon. He then makes a dart for the goal, knowing the relationship they've got is phenomenal, knowing that Gordon is immediately going to throw it to him. And Gordon hits it to him quite quickly, because he has to move quickly. And I really love when our team plays with that level of speed, doesn't sit around on the ball. But when you throw it into a player that quickly, it is hard to control it. And yeah, I don't know if there's many players in world football right now who can control a difficult ball at like fast pace. No one can do it better than Isak right now. It's unbelievable how he keeps the ball under control in those pressure moments. He rattles it towards goal, hits off the post, drops to Murphy, and Jacob Murphy is following it in. Well done to him. Slots it home. It was still difficult to finish even at that point because it came sort of at a dodgy angle. He manages to guide it into the goal. Oh, massive sigh of relief. Quick mention on Jacob Murphy. For about a year, if not more, I thought this lad's a championship player. He's not good enough. He hasn't got the technical ability. He makes bad decisions. And I was very critical of him. But equally, I can also give credit where it's due. And what a turnaround. What a season. And he's gone from being someone I didn't think even belonged in the first team to being one of the best wingers in the Premier League. And look, it may be a purple patch like Almiron had. Who knows, right? I wish him all the best because the one thing that's clear is he's a good lad in the dressing room and he's a hard worker. And he's getting the rewards. You see some players, you know, you could argue Raheem Sterling even, you wonder where the desire is. Jacob Murphy, I have no doubt about his desire to be a proper player. And he's been unbelievable. After that, you know, Martinelli, Trossard and Havertz, they didn't really click. They didn't get going. I think they had one decent chance when Lewis Hall accidentally whacked it into his own box and Trossard picked it up and had a shot on goal that was quite comfortably saved. A little bit nervy considering how close to the goal he was like. It wasn't great from them. They terribly missed Saka, obviously. I think their young lad Skelly was probably their best player. You know what I mean? This kid has come out of nowhere and just looks unbelievable. I was quite relieved that they didn't start Nwaneri because he's looked very direct, very threatening. Whereas the front three they've got right now, they're a bit flat. And I think that Man City game flattered them a little bit because Man City are shocking in defence right now. And against a proper well-oiled machine like Newcastle, when we are on it, they just don't. I mean, we've played them 3 times this season and the score's 5-0 on aggregate. They haven't scored a single fucking goal. They haven't laid a glove on us. And that's not me gloating at all. I'm just saying, like, when you've spent the amount of money that they spent on Havertz, you look at that and you think, fuck me, Arteta, what were you playing at me? You could have spent that money way better. You should not be coming to Newcastle and us who spent significantly less going. We've got a quite a comfortably better forward line here. And speaking of that forward line, Anthony Gordon almost scored from distance when he dispossessed Saliba, I think it was. The keeper was off his line. He hammered it and I thought, this is it. We're going to clinch it here. But it went just wide. However, that was a sign of things to come. Not long after, Raya plays it out to Declan Rice, who's being hounded for the ball by Fabian Shaw. You're thinking, what is Raya thinking here? That was mental, by the way. Fabian Shaw, as a centre-back, getting forward, putting the pressure on. There's obviously been talk to do that. He doesn't just do that for no reason. So well done to the manager for instructing him to do that, I would say. But he gets the ball, lays it into Gordon. Immediately, Gordon reacts, fires it into the bottom corner. 2-0. Game over. 4-0 on aggregate over the 2 legs. And I'm really happy for Anthony Gordon because I don't think he's having his best season, but he's trying. It's funny because his numbers are still good. Even if he's not as good as he was last season, arguably. It just hasn't quite clicked this season in the way it did last season. But he's constantly a threat. He's constantly trying. And when you've got that attitude that he's got, things are always going to come good for him. And to win 4-0 on aggregate, when we didn't have our first choice midfield in either game, Bruno missed the first game, Joe Linton missed the second game, it really feels like we're not just dependent on having our first team fit constantly. Like, we can drop a player here and there and still perform. And I hope that gives the lads a bit of confidence. And I got to give a special mention to Sven Botman, who came in this game. He's coming back from injury. He looked the real deal once again. You never know with such a major knee injury if a player is ever going to be the same again. He looked like a Rolls Royce in this game. And I did love the quote from Anthony Gordon after the game about, we got to stay humble. And all the lads are saying, stay humble, stay humble. And I think that they really wanted to get in the heads of those Arsenal players and make a fight out of it, and like at the end just rubbing it in a bit. We've got to play them one more time this season. Arsenal are going to be so up for that game, man. And honestly, I think that as much as the League Cup isn't everything for Arsenal, I think this is quite a significant blow to their season when they're trying to win the Premier League and they're not quite cutting it against Liverpool. They want to win the Champions League, but you look at performances like that against Newcastle and you think you're going to come up against harder games than that in the Champions League, mate, and you couldn't even lay a glove on us in 2 games. It feels unlikely that they're going to win a trophy this season. And for Arteta, who's had an overall great managerial career at Arsenal, but still yet to land silverware aside from the first one that they got, which wasn't even his team. You know, he's built a whole new side and he's done well with them. But again, like I said at the start of the video, that mental block about not getting your hands on a trophy it grows and grows and grows the longer it goes on. And I feel like the pressure is really going to be on next season for them. Like, despite how great Arteta has done for them, and he's clearly transformed the club, I still see like fans online saying we need to get rid of him. There does come a question of has he taken them as far as he can, but I wouldn't say so just yet. I think you got to give him a chance to get a better striker in and see if that is the full picture. But I did love when Newcastle fans were singing like, it must be the ball. Mikel Arteta, it must be the ball, because he was blaming the ball after the first leg. I mean, maybe it was, do you know what I mean? Maybe we're just better with that ball than him. But as amazing as this is for me, and I am so delighted and so grateful to the manager, the players, all of them, because earlier this season it was looking horrendous, man. And I don't know how. I was even saying if Eddie doesn't turn this round, he's going to end up getting sacked. Like, he's going to have to. You know what I mean? It was that bad. So to turn it around mid-season to the level they have, it's mind-blowing. But equally, there is still a bit of slight frustration here, or more worry. Newcastle's performances are so bipolar. We must be the most, like, the range of how bad to how good we can perform in the Premier League is the most dramatic. You look at the games recently against Fulham, against Bournemouth, we were pathetic in both of those. And then to perform like this against Arsenal, it's like night and day. That has got to stop a bit. These players need to sort of take a bit of responsibility and go, look, we can lose games, that's fine, but we can't let our standards drop to such a degree when we're capable of such amazing things. And you can tell one of the reasons is complacency, man. Like Brighton at home, West Ham at home, Bournemouth at home, Fulham at home. They're not the best teams in the league. They're very decent sides. I'm not having a go at them. But equally, when we perform at such high levels against the best teams, you know it's because you're taking these sides lightly. They're not soft touches in the Premier League. You got to be focused every game. If we ever want to compete for a Premier League title, that is a component in our side that needs to be addressed. And Bruno said after the game, you know, if the crowd was like that for every game, we'd be a problem for every side. And I just thought, yeah, I get what you're saying. You know, it was an unbelievable atmosphere and that helps the players. But equally, sometimes the Newcastle side comes out so flat that they don't give the fans anything either. And it works both ways. One other little issue I want to address is Joe Linton's injury. He's going to be out for a few weeks, hopefully not too much longer. In the last couple of games, I see Joe Willock being brought on for Joe Linton, I think it was, and Longstaff and Joe Willock both getting on ahead of Lewis Miley. And, you know, when Joe Willock did come on in the last game, he missed the ball when he was through on goal for an easy reply. And in the last couple of years, Lewis Miley has looked much better than Joe Willock and Sean Longstaff. It's just a fact. And he's a young kid. And I look at Arsenal and then blooding in Skelly and Nwaneri, and I just think, look at the talent we've seen from Lewis Miley. He's cut it as a 17-year-old in a game against PSG. I've seen him have great games against Chelsea. He's good enough. And he's a better footballer than possibly most of our squad. The technical ability he has, you've seen the way he struck that ball for that FA Cup goal, it was outrageously good. You'd never see that from a Willock or a Longstaff. Not in a million years at this point. The kid needs to be given game time. Otherwise, what is he doing? He needs to be given more experience to get better, because I think he's got so much potential and it's such a shame to see him getting the junk minutes. Junk minutes don't improve you as a footballer. Come on now. And I do think if there's one thing I could ever criticise Eddie on, and it's very hard to at this point, but I would say the one thing I would want him to work on as a manager, and this is just constructive criticism, right? I say this with love, bro. I love this guy. The substitutions could be better. I think he needs to be a bit more proactive and be a bit more threatening with the substitutions, so that it's not just like, oh, when the game's gone, then we react. And tweaking the system like he did in this game, do that more often, right? This worked. And sometimes if we have a bit more of a defensive mentality and a bit more responsibility and pay the respect that some of these, you know, not big six teams deserve, we'd probably win more games than what we have been. When you look at the points we've wasted this season, we could literally be up there with Arsenal right now. It's only 3 wins, and we could have easily had that from some of the poor performances we've had at home. But look, beggars can't be choosers. As much as I've gone into detail about what I think could be done, you already know how I feel. I just want this fucking trophy so desperately. Who knows who it's going to be against? We're going to find out. Liverpool or Spurs. I've had a couple of me Scouse mates texting us saying, do you fancy going for a pint at Wembley? I said, I fucking hope not, because I don't want yous there. I'd love it if anyone can get me tickets. If you can get tickets for the Newcastle end, I'm your friend for life. Please help me. Look for a few of me and me mates if possible. But let me know if you haven't already. Hit the like button. Don't forget to stay subscribed to the Kickoff YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.